Moving on, I'm delighted now to introduce our 5 distinguished speakers. Firstly, we'd like to introduce Ms. Janice Chu, the principal of JC Legal. She will also be the moderator of today's panel discussion. Ms. Chu has over 14 years of legal experience both in Hong Kong and in Malaysia, and she specializes particularly in corporate and commercial law. She currently oversees 2 JC corporate offices, one in Kuala Lumpur and one in Hong Kong. And she is also the deputy chairperson of the Malaysian Association in Hong Kong. Please welcome Ms. Chu. Next, we'd like to introduce Mr. Liow, who is the Vice President and General Manager of Concentrix at the Greater China and ASEAN region. Under his leadership, Concentrix has grown 300% in the last 2 years, becoming the largest foreign CRM services provider in the Greater China and ASEAN region. He is also a committee member of the Hong Kong Malaysian Chamber of Commerce. Please welcome Mr. Liow. Next, we have Ms. Yi Jo-an, who is the partner of tax and business advisory services, and also the Asia Pacific technology tax leader at EY Hong Kong and Macau. Ms. Yi has over 20 years of experience providing practical and extensive tax and compliance services for multinational clients. She's also the regional tax account leader in Asia Pacific, and she oversees tax advisory and compliance for major apparel and consumer product groups. Please welcome Ms. Yi. The next speaker that we'd like to introduce is Mr. Kwan, who is the CEO of Raffles Family Office and also the chairman of the Family Office Association in Hong Kong. Mr. Kwan is responsible for corporate governance, management, and strategic planning at Raffles. And at the Family Office Association Hong Kong, he has driven dialogue between the family law industry and various government and regulatory bodies in Hong Kong. He also has over 15 years of management and banking experiences in large financial institutions. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Kwan. Last but not least, we'd like to introduce Mr. Eric Fong, who is the Director of Logistics at Liow Company Limited. Mr. Fong is responsible for managing and overseeing the logistics function and has done so for many years. With effective team performance and a track record of continuous improvement, he has led the team to maintain excellent customer service and a smooth coordination network for the distribution of goods. Please welcome Mr. Fong. Having introduced our 5 distinguished speakers, I would like to now pass the time to Ms. Janice Chu.
Thank you, Amanda. Selamat datang to our panel discussions, making inroads into ASEAN via Malaysia. So today we are very honored to have 4 different industry leaders here to share their views on expansions to Malaysia and also the Malaysian market. So firstly, we have Zen, who is the e-commerce and digital marketing leader. And then Joanne. So she's an expert in tax and also business advisory. And then of course we have Mr. Kwan. He is the expert in finance. And then we have the food industry leader, Mr. Eric Fong. So today, the first question, of course, is the lady first. Joanne. So why is Malaysia an attractive country to invest in? That would be the first questions. And with all of these uncertainties right now, what are the strengths of Malaysia as an investment hub?
Okay, hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's very good to be here, and after a very, very nice Malaysian lunch. Trying to wake myself up a bit. Anyway, good afternoon. Janice, that's a very full-on question. I have a couple of notes which I might refer to as I answer it. I think the first thing why Malaysia is an attractive investment hub to start off with is, I think we need to step a bit back and look at the geopolitical tensions that's happening now in the region between US and China. we can't escape from that, because what is happening is, and I sat in a really good seminar which the Malaysian Chamber organized, Professor Kishore Mahmudi, where he talked about there's a structural shift moving, right? With China obviously getting dominance. But the interesting point is that ASEAN in particular, and I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but ASEAN is actually the second largest trading partner with China after the EU. And it is taking up 15% of volume of China's trade. Now that's a really interesting fact, which I actually even thought was really interesting. We all thought it was US, but ASEAN has surpassed the US in terms of being China's second largest trading partner. So I think with Malaysia being a key member of ASEAN clearly puts it in prominence. The other one I think, which was in the MIDA webinar, was the RCEP, which is called the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. That is, after the WTO, the largest free trade agreement right now in the world. It comprises 15 countries, Malaysia is one. But what I think this does is it streamlines a lot of the custom duty processes, the tariffs and etc. And it's going to, I think, going forward, really bring Malaysia and anyone who has signed into the RCEP into prominence. So driving a lot of investments into the area and so on and so forth. Yeah, I just let me stop here for now.
Thank you. So because this first part, we will talk about the market overview. So the second question will be addressed to Mr. Kwan. So as the chairman of the Family Office Associations in Hong Kong, and noting the rising development of family office in Hong Kong, so in recent years, what are your thoughts on the market in Malaysia for family office?
Thank you. First of all, I have to say I'm falling asleep. Then nasi lemak, I'm sorry, but nasi lemak durian is very, very heavy. But I couldn't stop myself and I finished all of it. So I'm sorry, I have to refer to some of the points I have on my mobile phone. So yes, I'll be speaking on behalf of Family Office Association of Hong Kong, where I'm the chairman, and I'm also the running Raffles Family Office. I'm the CEO and founder. And Raffles Family Office, we have an office in Hong Kong and Singapore, fully licensed, and also rep office in Taiwan and China as well. So when I was invited by Janice, who's a personal friend of mine, and also, my family office is also taking care of my own family. And obviously, Janice is our legal counsel for many matters. And she'll be able to explain to you what are the difficulties of running a family, even if one of your family member is a so-called expert in the field. Sometimes you need a lot of external help. But I think in terms of Malaysia, I think there are many interesting facts about Malaysia. I think first of all, in the past 2 decades, the total amount of wealth in Malaysia has, I think, tripled in 2 decades. But the thing is, if you look at what happened in the past 5 years and what is the forecast for the next 5 years, you'll be amazed at how fast things are starting to accelerate. So in the past 2 decades, the total wealth as in Malaysia has tripled, but the number of percentage of ultra high net worth in Malaysia in the past 5 years has gone up by 8%. But in the next 5 years, it's going to go up forecast to go up by 30%. So you can see, the number of people, the number of so-called billionaire or ultra high net worth in Malaysia is definitely picking up. And also, I mean that I think is very clear that recently there's a lot of tech firm being born in in ASEAN and mostly a lot of them are from Malaysia. And also, if you look at some of the reports recently, one of the spec that Raffles Family Office actually invested in, Bridgetown 2, which is basically led by Richard Lee and Peter Teo. The mandate is very, very clear. Tech company in Southeast Asia, and definitely Malaysian company that are being looked at the moment. Hopefully very soon, in the next few months, you see some news, and hopefully it will be from Malaysia, and definitely here in the loop.
So Malaysia bullying.
So that's one I think something that is very, very interesting about Malaysia. But and also a lot of people actually don't realize that Malaysia is actually one of the, I think it's not one of the, it's the financial hub for the Islamic AUM in the world, and in Asia I think it is by far the number one. And together with Malaysia and Saudi Arabia, I think almost 70% of the Islamic AUM are being managed by these two financial hubs. And that's why definitely is a lot of money being managed in Malaysia, especially in the Islamic world. So something that we definitely have we're constantly keeping a lookout for. So very, very interesting market, very different from other parts of the world, but definitely a lot of growth, especially in the near future.
Thank you, Jiman. So, Mr. Eric Fong. So the next question is about, as a leader in food industry, I believe everyone knows Lee Kam Kee, right? The oyster sauce. I know oyster sauce in Lee Kam Kee. How has the pandemic affected the industry landscape and also the consumption habits?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Mr. Yi, for inviting us to participate in this forum. Actually, I think pandemic affect the industry a lot. Not only the food industry, I think the whole world, even the economy is getting worse. So I think they changed the people's practice, even the cooking or the work from home. So you have more time to stay at home, and then you cannot go out for it. So the people will cook itself, and then we have so many chance to develop our sauce, especially for the convenience sauce, or provide them with the very fast and tasteful one point to finish all the meal. So this is our change, you know. So I think it makes us to change our traditional way, and also we have developed more and more convenient sauce for them.
Thank you. So Zed. So with a background in accounting and management consulting, could you briefly share with us how you come to specialize this IT and service businesses, especially e-commerce and digital marketing at Concentrix?
Yeah, so I was doing accounting and consulting, and accounting to me is, sorry to all the accountants in the room, I would prefer to something that is more forward. So I moved from accounting to consulting. When I got into consulting, I found that we talk a lot, but we don't implement for our clients. So when an opportunity came to me and say, hey, why don't you do the planning, do the consulting, and implement? That's where in year 2000, the outsourcing industry was born. So quite a few of us moved to the outsourcing industry where we consult the client, and we implement for the client, and we operate for the client to drive the results that we want. So that's the really the main reason.
It's like a one-stop solutions for the client.
Yeah, we say, we deliver what we say to the client.
Okay. So you hold the mic first. Because the next part we were talking about expansions. I know that I understand that Eric, the company, and also Zen, Concentrix, that you guys have expand your business in Malaysia, right? So the first question would be Zen first. So you have a regional office in Malaysia with a staff of over 4,000 people, if I'm not wrong. Maybe right now it's 5, I don't know. But why did you choose to build your team in Malaysia, and how has it supported your business in ASEAN?
Right, wonderful. Just let me give you some context on what we do. So Concentrix is a customer experience solution company. So globally we have about 270,000 people. So you're right, it's about close to 4,000 in Malaysia today. Now the main reason why we chose Malaysia to start with was really because of the people. The people in terms of the talent, in terms of the skill sets, and in terms of the language. That's the first thing. The second thing was because the government policy. There's an organization in Malaysia called MDEC, where they give a MSc status incentive, where it gave us 2 things. First is the 10 years tax-free, 0. And secondly is, as MSc status company, we can hire unlimited foreigners into Malaysia. So for our business, because we need to have different languages, different skill sets, the unlimited visa was really, really attractive. So that was how we started in Malaysia, started with IBM, and then moved, the entire business was bought over by Concentrix, so we continue from there. And that is also the main reason why a lot of companies look for us to put their regional centers in Malaysia. Right? So Malaysia for us is to support the entire Asia Pacific and to support the Malaysia domestic market. So that's what we do. It is very attractive. The third reason is because of infrastructure. So it is very easy to go to Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, every 4 hours, right, from the main port. Main highways, main transportation, making our journey very easy. And in our business, there's one more thing that is very important, which is the telecom bandwidth. So Malaysia has a few global international undersea cable, which guaranteed our access to all the global internet, global access at least 99.99%. So that was really, really important to us.
Thank you. So, Eric, so as I mentioned just now, Lee Kum Kee has been a household name in Hong Kong and worldwide for generations. So how did your company identify Malaysia as a station for your regional expansion strategy?
I think the decision is before I joined the Lee Kum Kee. So actually, we have not only the Malaysia is overseas pound. We also do have the USA. We have LA, the factories, and also we have a warehouse over there. And in Europe, we have a sales office. In Hong Kong, we have a headquarters and in Daipo. And also we have biggest manufacturing base in Xinhui, Guangdong. Okay, in China, in Malaysia, I think the one we have to our mission is to deliver the good meal to the customer. So I think first of all, they want to close to the market and also close to the customer. And also we would like to set up the halal hub, especially in the region in Malaysia, because in Malaysia the halal certification is the global recognition. So I think this is most important for that. That's why we choose Malaysia for factory. I think this is 23 years ago. We set up the factory in 1998.
So a follow-up question is that when you talk about halal certifications, right? I'm just wondering, how does this halal compliance affect your company in producing the goods to suit the local consumptions?
Yeah, because if you want to sell to the local, and you need to develop local taste, especially suit for the local people. So most of the Malaysian practices is halal food. So that's why you need to have a halal certification in order to develop your products well.
But just now you mentioned the halal certifications in Malaysia is actually recognized in all the Islamic.
Remember to say, except the Indonesia.
Indonesia is
Indonesia,
different.
they have a different halal system,
Okay.
which is called the Mui Halal.
Mui halal.
Yeah, MUL Mui Halal.
Okay.
Maybe somebody heard about this. So that's why both of the halal we have already got it. We got the first halal in 2000, year 2000, and then the Mui Halal is in 2002.
Okay. Thank you. So, Chiman, your turn. So, as a family office overseas interested, do you think the family office overseas interested to invest in Malaysia? This is the first question. The follow-up question would be, would Malaysia continue to be one of the best investment hub in Southeast Asia?
Well, there's a lot of cover. Okay, yeah, I think for Malaysia is definitely one of the top global sources and destination for venture capital in fields such as VR, autonomous vehicle, 3D paintings, 3D printing, robotic, and drones. But I think family office in Hong Kong and in Malaysia are basically gateway to Greater China and also ASEAN respectively. This definitely a forefront of innovation for both areas, and also gains first mover advantage in two of the largest economic powerhouse in Asia. But I think for Malaysia, one thing that's very, very unique and also really sets Malaysia apart from other ASEAN countries is definitely the digital economy blueprint. I think that is something that, if you look at, how many countries in Southeast Asia are really adopting the 5G technology. I mean, Malaysia was definitely the first, if not one of the first, to raise their hand and really have the infrastructure set up and blueprint. And also, Malaysia's accelerating, digital economy agenda provide a very solid base to a lot of value-added, technology-related activity, which is to attract tech investors looking for the next big thing, the next unicorn in Southeast Asia. And also, this is further supported by the comprehensive set of incentives that encourage and invite investment in digital technology and services. And that really opened up, Malaysia startup to global capital, including that from Apple in Hong Kong. Because in family office world, if you look at some of the white paper that Family Office Association are going to publish, I think later part this year, one of the key things I think very clearly is that family office look at direct investments. And when you talk about direct investments, it's really about having a very young populations of entrepreneurs, bright minds in a very open architecture, very open economy. That they create something different, kind of a market disruption. And there are many successful cases so far. And I think recently everybody talked about Grab. I think Grab is a very very good example. I mean, the whole Uber, technology sharing, economy of scale sharing of car hailing industry. But when you come to Asia and you look at Grab, and today Grab is so much bigger, so much more comprehensive than all these market leader, the first mover, right? So I think people really, I think the European and the Americans, we have dealt with many of these family office that are coming to Asia, and some of them even very, very specifically going to Southeast Asia to look for direct investments. So I think that really shows how innovative and dynamic we are in Southeast Asia, and Malaysia is definitely one of the core players that is there we are looking at.
Do you think the short-term economic recovery plan in Malaysia is helping as well to promote Malaysia as one of the investment hubs in the future?
I think in the short run, definitely it helps. But I think, to be honest, if you look at longer term, it wouldn't make a lot of difference. I mean, in a way, simply because Malaysia is really moving very, very quickly, right? So I think, obviously, with what's happened in the past year, 18 months, I think COVID has hit the world very, very hard. I think, with what's happening and the country is still in lockdown, I think it's very difficult. But I think if you look at, if you are bullish about ASEAN, if you're bullish about Malaysia, then I think what's happening in the short term wouldn't affect family office view on the economy as a whole, because people's brain will not go away because of COVID, right? The idea is still going to be there. Yes, it's slower. Yes, things are not moving as fast, but it's going to be moving forward still, definitely. And I think the family office that we have dealt with regarding whether it's in the Family Office Association or whether it's Raffles Family Office, I think we are still very, very bullish about the economy of Malaysia.
Thank you. So, Joanne, I think a lot of audience here might be interested to know if, let's say, they want to invest in Malaysia and they want to expand to Malaysia. So, what are the commonly used legal form and investment structure for Hong Kong and Greater China-based group who are interested in expanding their business in Malaysia? Because they might want to know how, if they're really interested to go into Malaysia.
Thanks, Janice. So, being a tax person, obviously what I do every day and a few calls like this is, US, EU, or Chinese, Hong Kong companies will come to me and say, hey, Joanne, I want to set up a regional hub, to trade goods, or a procurement center, or we're interested in a SPAC. What are the tax implications of D-SPAC, for investing companies? So this is what I do day in, day out. And the answers are very simple. So when you want to invest in, let's say, Malaysia, in Malaysia, you need to look at two tax considerations. One is what we call the operating structure, and the second is the holding company structure. Your operating structure is your Malaysian entity, so you want to have substance. You want to have maybe people on the ground helping you to show and tell your products. You want to manufacture, you want to distribute, right? So what is the formal structure you would do to invest in Malaysia? Now you can choose a private limited company, which is a limited company, or as they call Sendirian Berhad, or you can use a branch structure. They have the same headline tax rate of 24%, but only a PLC can actually get tax incentives granted by the tax authorities in Malaysia. But there are many, many different tax implications in using either form or structure. In general, from a tax perspective, we wouldn't recommend branches. You would only use a branch if you were doing very minimal, non-show-stopping, ancillary supportive activities in Malaysia. Otherwise, we would recommend that you set up a limited company. The other consideration I said was what I call holding company structure. Now you are a Hong Kong company, for example, and you want to expand to Malaysia. What would my legal structure look like? Do I need a special purpose vehicle to hold a Malaysian investment? What are the taxes that, as the dividends go back up to, say, you in Hong Kong as an individual, what is going to be the withholding tax? So there's all this sort of planning that you also need to consider when you're trying to exit the investment, when you're trying to repatriate dividends, when you're trying to maybe do licensing or sub-licensing of intellectual property, all these because tax will eat into your profits, right? And there are also taxes that need to be imposed whether you make profits or not, actually, which we will call withholding taxes or indirect taxes. So, so formal substance important because ultimately I think tax will eat into whatever margins. And if you're considering an opportunity in Malaysia, you definitely need to consider factor tax into your financial modeling. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there are some audience might be interested to know another form which is we call joint venture, because they might be looking into joint venture. Do you think you can share more on joint venture? For instance, like a Hong Kong company, to joint venture with a Malaysia company. So is there? Sorry. Yeah. So I'm just thinking whether you have any thoughts on this. Like, if let's say there is this Hong Kong company would like to share, like joint venture with a Malaysia company as a first step, of course. So do you have any advice on that?
I think with JVs, it really depends on the quality and of the business partner. The business partner will bring a lot of experience in terms of, if, for example, they have the business network in Malaysia, which you don't have. They may have, access to relationships or business opportunities. All these are good and everything. But I think with JVs, it is important to consider, because the thing is, you are forming a joint venture, and you will both be severally and jointly liable to anything that crystallizes from the JV, being tax, litigation possibilities, if the relationship goes sour. So I almost don't really want to commit as to whether you should go into Malaysia yourself or through a JV. I think it really depends on the type of business you're in, the sector. For example, if you're in a very regulated sector, telecom, it's very sensitive things. I'm not even sure you can go into Malaysia yourself, right? You might possibly need to do a JV, but I do feel that, there are lots of considerations.
Thank you. So now we move to innovations. Zen, in view of the current industry trends in Malaysia, what do you think investors of the technology industry should eye on in the next 5 years?
And I guess most people would expect us to say the AI, the big data, the fintech, and so on. Frankly, I would actually encourage you to look back in your own business and your own industry and see what is the most problematic problem that you want to solve, right? So if you can solve the biggest problem in your industry, it will be the biggest innovation for you and the industry itself, right? Instead of trying to think too far into, can I do another virtual bank? Can I do another Grab equivalent? It is very difficult because Grab was set up to fix a problem, which is getting transportation, which obviously now they expand into a super app. So I think back to the original question, I would actually look at something that is closest to you, closest to your industry. What is the biggest problem that you face? And bring in technology and innovation to solve that problem. And with that, you can solve that problem to all your peers in your industry, and you may become the next unicorn.
Thank you. I need to go back and think about what I need. Okay. So, Eric, so this question is for you. So I understand that sustainability is the core to become key philosophy. So I know that the company has received the LEED's Platinum certification for its productions in Guangdong. LEED's mean leadership in energy and environmental design. So will your company incorporate the green technology while expanding your business in Malaysia?
The answer is yes. We will continue our environmental concept, you know. But the one you say is 2 years ago we received the LEED, the Pentium, the first prize, I think so. Because we have a very big site in Xinhui, that is around 1.2 million square meter site. So we have a lot of warehouse space, especially the roof space. That's why we have to set up the solar energy system. And also we make use of the thermal energy from the ground. The ground, you know, the draw the heat, and then we have to use the hot coal and heat in our fermentation system. And also one thing is we do the wetland. That wetland is about 46,000 square meters. There's a wetland to house us a lot. We save a lot of water, and then we make it reuse and recycle. So these two projects make us to have 100% on the desk subtitle, you know. So I think in the other overseas part, we may apply our concept to that, but the scale may not be so big like that. But anyway, we will continue our environmental philosophy.
Thank you, Eric. So, Chimant, in terms of innovation, I think I did participate in one of your talk in Asia CEO before. When we talk about innovations, I really want to know about what you think about innovation from your industry. Is either a family office or from the finance industry?
This is not part of the question you gave me. So I wasn't prepared for that.
I just want to wake you up from the last one.
Okay, innovation, yeah. You know, I always try to explain like what exactly do I do, you know, like what does really a family office do, right? So there are many ways to explain it. I can do it for 2 hours, or I can do it in 2 seconds. So let me try to do this.
Everyone would prefer 2 seconds.
So we are basically very, very high-end nannies. You know, we take care of very, very rich families. But I think there are many factors that we must always keep in mind. Like, you know, we must be independent. We must always be thinking on behalf of the family, what's really benefits them. So in terms of innovations, innovation within our industry, in the family office world, is that how we serve this family. I think it has to be really something that is what's best for them. So to share with you a personal story of my relationship with a Malaysian family. Just pre-COVID, my last business trip was actually in Kuala Lumpur. So I came back and I literally landed in Hong Kong 48 hours before Malaysia was locked down. So during my trip, I had a one-day meeting with a Malaysian family. So in the morning, I actually met up with the parents, and the parents said, yeah, let's go for a late breakfast. I said, sure, yeah. So I was in my polo tee, long pants, you know, try to look, you know, smart casual, but more smarter than casual. And then the parents brought me to a very local bak day breakfast, which I enjoyed very much, but I sweat like a pig. You know, and then during that luncheon or breakfast, we didn't talk much about business. We really talked much about, you know, where I'm from, where my family's heritage, about my history, my education history, my philosophy, my company's background, things like that. We literally didn't talk anything about the family's money or family wealth. And then later that night, we went out for dinner with the next generation. And then I thought, okay, let me be smart this time. So let me go in shorts and some kind of sports shoes and be smart, because very likely, we probably might go somewhere dinner, and in a very local place. And then before you know it, I was rejected at the door of a very fine dining restaurant because I was underdressed. And then obviously it was the younger generation, the kids. So the kids actually brought me to a very nice fine dining restaurant in Kuala Lumpur. So I mean, it's just, it just says, how much, when we serve a Malaysian family, and generally Malaysian family, the first generation, they grew up, they make their wealth in a Malaysia that is totally upside down from the next generation. So can you imagine when wealth is being transferred from the last generation to the next generation, the expectation, the kind of economic background, the kind of education level, and how they see the world and what is their priorities are very, very different, right? So we have to re-innovate ourselves and reinvent ourselves so that when we serve the first generation and we serve the second generation, and family office is really the bridge between the first and second generation. We help with the transfer of wealth. And of course, a lot of times as Raffles Family Office, I always say, besides the fact that we are trying to pass on, the financial wealth, we also have to make sure that, not just, the tangible assets are being passed on properly, but the intangible side of things. So when the next generation, when they inherit this amount of wealth that makes so much difference to the world, that can create such an impact, then I think we're going to make sure that they also adopt this, the philosophy as well. And a lot of times, the first generation, they appreciate things like this, and especially in a Malaysian context, doesn't matter how big they are, but they always have this Malaysian, Asian philosophy of how we should treat wealth, how we should behave ourselves, how we should run our family office. I think these are the things that we have to be very, very Malaysian centric in a way. So I think in terms of innovation, that is one thing that we have to always keep in mind for us.
Okay, thank you. So Joanne?
Yes.
So seen as a launch pad into ASEAN, MNC company in a wide range of industry have recognized Malaysia as a valuable component of their global operations. So can you please share with us some of the success stories, that you have witnessed on the market? I'm sure everyone will be eager to know about it.
Well, I can't talk about my own clients by name because those are confidential. And so what I had to do to answer this question, Janice, big question was I had to Google. Some of these are my clients, but because the information is publicly available, I'm able to share. So I'm just going to start off with, yes, this had a purpose. I just want to share with maybe Alibaba. I think everybody's read the news significantly, but I think in the cloud computing sort of data center, and some of the panelists here talked about digital innovation and the fact that Malaysia is very much earmarked itself to be like a digital hub in ASEAN. Is that is currently a space that is, I think, slightly underappreciated and underinvested in, but certainly you have very big players already, very well-known conglomerates and overseas multinationals who have successfully operated there. So it's actually, Malaysia is one of the largest assembly test manufacturing sites for Intel in the world, as I think the slide already showed. And the last one, if I may, is Oracle. So Oracle also set up its digital hub in Malaysia, serving SMEs across 22 countries. And this commenced back in 2016, but they have almost close to about 200 to 300 people in Malaysia right now servicing this hub. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we go to the advice part, so if let's say you have any questions that you want to ask the panelists, please write it down and then I will ask on your behalf later. So this question is actually addressed to Zent and Eric. What are the challenges of developing your respective services in Malaysia, and how did you overcome it? Maybe Generally. Yeah.
Developing services.
Yeah. What are the challenges and how did you overcome it in Malaysia? In Malaysia.
It's a tough question because we have been operating fairly smoothly in Malaysia so far. So not much challenges at this point of time. Mainly, probably the most challenging part was last year with pandemic, because all our people, 4,000 of them between Kuala Lumpur and Cyberjaya. During pandemic, the government had to shut down the country partially. So what do? We have to support our clients remotely. So what we did was within 48 hours, move everybody to work from home. And imagine that you have your laptop, you have your connection to the client network fully secured, and we moved 4,000 of them within 48 hours to work from home. So that was quite a feat. Fortunately, Malaysia has the right infrastructure for us to do that. But otherwise, we typically use Malaysia as the test bed for the ASEAN business. The main challenges is typically first the languages that we need to cater for. So the technology. Other than these two, it is fairly easy to do business in Malaysia, frankly.
Thank you.
If you ask the difficulties in setting up the factories or searching the site, I think is the most important things or the impact to us is it is a multi-international city, and also so many different languages is talking about this. But in the searching the site, I suggest you better to set up your local team firstly, and then make use of the government resources like the MIDA and also HDC. They really can help you in solving all the problems. So it make you easier to get your way,
At least to know the environment, the business culture.
Yes. You save a lot of time when you go around in Malaysia.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, Joanne, what are the key practical tax considerations for Hong Kong and Greater China-based companies intending to set up new companies or already having a presence in Malaysia? This, I believe, all the audience will be interested to know, because if you're talking about tax considerations before they want to, expand their business into Malaysia, or they're already having a business in Malaysia.
Right. So I think the good thing is Hong Kong has a double tax treaty with Malaysia. So to some extent, I think that provides some protection. The other thing is Malaysia currently has a corporate tax headline rate. I believe I'm not a Malaysian tax expert. I do, but 24%, but which is higher than. I'm not sure if you guys heard about the G7 announcement on the weekend, where the OECD are moving towards a global minimum tax rate of 15% for most countries. So Hong Kong, unfortunately, because we have territorial system, we have offshore claims, which lowers our effective tax rate to very low, we might fall foul of this global minimum tax. And Malaysia will be, assuming you don't take your tax incentives into account for now, will be quite safe. It's definitely over 15. The other thing is the dividend withholding tax. There is no dividend withholding tax from Hong. So if you're a Malaysian company trying to repatriate a dividend to Hong Kong, for now I think there's no taxes on that dividend back to yourself as an individual investor. I'm just trying to think in my mind. There's multiple tax incentives now on offer actually in Malaysia, which I almost feel, and CG had mentioned some of them. If you're in pharmaceutical, and then you talked about getting a 0%, subject to certain investment criteria and so on. But all these incentives, unfortunately, might be caught up within this global minimum tax initiatives, not just for Malaysia, but just in general. So maybe something to note, in terms of that.
Thank you. Jimin, how would you promote the cross-border and foreign investment with your family office and all your organizations?
how would I promote?
Yeah, how would you promote the cross-border and foreign investment?
I think for me is really okay. First of all, I think when we serve a family, I think a lot of time, like I said before, we have to be independent. So in a way, a lot of our so-called job scope or mission is really a lot of based on reverse inquiry, which means that the family itself will have some views. They have probably have some connection families in Southeast Asia, probably in Malaysia. They will basically say, hey, I want to look at this. I want to look at this sector in Malaysia because they are well known in this industry. So it's really our job to connect them, probably with association like everyone here, and also I think MDIA, and I think that's very very important actually for ourselves. At Raffles Family Office, we are the first. I mean, before advising anyone, we are advising ourselves because we are looking at setting a presence in Malaysia. And it's not easy because we are a new industry. A lot of time we are trying to explain ourselves, like what exactly we are doing, right? So in some of the country where we are doing advisory role, but in Singapore and Hong Kong where we are fully licensed in basically everything that we are doing. So I think in here it is really about connecting them with the right people. And I think in Malaysia is I have to agree with everyone here that is Malaysia actually is very very business friendly because a lot of time not just on the government level but on the state level there's actually a lot of help and people are very very extremely helpful with really us setting up and presence in Malaysia. And also I think the new generation of Malaysian entrepreneurs, they are very very open-minded. So we have office in Singapore at the moment, and potentially we are looking to build 2 or 3 more other rep office in Southeast Asia. And besides Singapore, and we have spoken to Indonesia, Thai, Malaysia. These are 3 main countries that we are looking at. And if you look at the characteristics of a Malaysian entrepreneur and also Malaysian second generations, they are extremely open-minded and extremely westernized, and their views are generally very very global. So they don't just look at Malaysia; they always look at how Malaysia is connected to the world. That's why that's one of the reasons why Malaysia is so connected in terms of the infrastructure. I always joke about this with my friends, right? When you go to I grew up in Singapore, so there's this Malaysian island that I always go to, Tioman Island. There's a resort that we always go to, and the village next door, the kampong next door. It's 20 years ago. It looks like this. 20 years later, it's pretty much exactly the same. But I always joke to them 20 years ago, this old man who's sitting in that in the kampong, the cafe, he probably only know about what's happening on Tioman Island, right, or the kampong next door, right? But right now today, with just a very small mobile phone in his hand, he probably knows everything else throughout the world. And that's how much Malaysia has moved on. And we are not talking about snail speed. We are talking about 5G, right? So I think in here you really can't look at Malaysia just 5-10 years ago and today, because Malaysia has changed so much. And to be honest, when I was in Malaysia last year, when I was in Kuala Lumpur in the CBD area, I think you really be shocked like how Malaysia CBD is like right now. It is even more wealthy than Causeway Bay, trust me. The amount of light and everything you have in CBD area, I think even Causeway Bay is falling behind, to be very honest. So I think that is something that is very, very, very impressive in Malaysia. And I think a lot of people knows, and a lot of families are definitely looking in that direction.
Thank you. So can I open up the questions to the audience right now? Anyone would like to ask questions to the panel, please? Anyone? No questions? Any? Yeah.
My name is Gina, and I represent Macau. We are a global business processing, outsourced business processing center. My question here is to Jen. Obviously, I look upon Concentrix, as a market leader in similar industry. So I do have plans, probably in the next 3 to 5 years to exit Hong Kong, or to probably expand to Hong Kong, or probably to bring part of our business to Hong Kong. As a data center and a business processing center, there are three elements that I'll be very, very much concerned with. Number one is compliance. Would you be able to share on compliance policies in Malaysia when we handle data and privacies? The second element that I'll be very much concerned is human resources. As a business processing center, we look into human resources, very, very, heavily in people development, retaining of people skills, development. And the third element is sustainability and also handling crisis with backup, resilience, backup facilities. What are your thoughts, after running your business in Malaysia for so many years that you could share with me as, a simple-minded business entrepreneur that I intend to bring my business back to Malaysia? Thank you.
Yeah, I only remember the easy question. So first of all, Malaysia is still following the British legal system, similar to Hong Kong. So from a legal framework point of view, you should be well assured, right? So the established legal system, very, very similar to what you have. Now, from the data security, data protection, similarly, globally, we have the data processor and data owners legal terms, where we separate who are the data owners and who are the data processors. So for people like you and I, we are the data processors. So we limit our liability to a certain extent from that point of view. Similar with the data owner, who is the actual companies that own the customer data, right? So we separate that very, very clearly in the contract. Now, from the security standpoint, that was the second question, wasn't it? Right. Now, what we are seeing in the market right now, a lot of clients actually allow people to work from home, similarly to us. They even allow freelancers to touch their customer data. So what is going to happen to the security of your data? There are a couple of things that is being done within Concentrix and in industry. The first thing is we have rolled out this is a bit sensitive in Hong Kong and some part of the world. We have rolled out a system that is put in front of your employee's laptop, where it tracks what the employee does using facial recognition. So imagine you support the bank's data and you work from home. We can actually track whether you are you in front of the computer. And we are also putting the relevant application on the laptop, in the laptop, where we track what you do and whether you are following the process. So we are using technology on top of the training to ensure the security of our customers' data, right? Now, obviously, the data links is through VPN, is through secure network directly to our customers' data center. So that is fully secure. So we are trying to secure from the people who are doing the work. So that's where the facial recognition, that's where the back-end monitoring of work that is being installed and being monitored. Right? And I forgot the third tough question.
HR, human resource issue as well, sustainability, and HR issue, human resources.
Right. It would be interesting for you to think about it. Our business, the more people we hire, the more revenue we make. However, the trend going forward for us to advise the client is, let me put technology for you. Let me put self-service technology for you. The chatbot, the voice bot, the email bots, the IVRs, how do I improve your mobile apps, how do I improve your website, so that I don't need that many people to manage your operation. That's the first thing. Second thing is to reduce the dependency on people. We are actually advising our clients. Instead of the bots for the customers, we use the bots to train our people. Right? So that means we can hire new people quicker and shorten the training time using the technology and get them up to speed to manage the client. What that means is the training requirements may be maybe shorter. The profile needed will be lower. The speed to get them to maturity to support client is a lot faster. So if you combine both, I don't need that many people, and I can get the new people up to speed quicker. So it's a win-win situation for us and for our clients. Right? So sustainability, strangely you said that, we have just published our first ESG report globally. So we have about 270,000 people globally. 2 quarters ago, we launched the ESG program. We asked people to have initiative to plant more trees. We have initiative to encourage people to treat the wastage very carefully. How do we do that as part of our operation? How do we do that as part of our personal life? We have actually formally documented first time. And how that has helped the business and our client. Similar to Joanne, I can't disclose a lot of our Fortune 500 clients. So we actually now have similar things to talk about with our clients. Because a lot of the major clients have a very stringent standard ESG program themselves. So now we are getting on par with them, and they are getting more interested to speak to us on this other than just the business as usual. So it has helped a lot. It has helped the morale of the people. The younger generation like you and I care more about the environment, care about the earth. So it actually connects us to the people better. So it's a lot of win-win situation. I hope I addressed the questions.
Is there any more questions? Yes.
Thank you very much for a very informative seminar. I'd like to address this question to Eric Fong. You have plants in Sunhui, in Hong Kong, Taipo, in LA, in KL. Now, how important is KL to your whole company's manufacturing? What is the productivity cost efficiency of Malaysia compared to the other factories? That's number one. Number two, does Kuala Lumpur serve your product sales to ASEAN? And if so, is this been improving over the years? Thank you.
Okay. Actually, we do have a part overseas in LA. Like you say in Xinhui. Xinhui is our biggest manufacturing base. It serves almost 70% of our sales. And LA is our another part, maybe the earliest one for the overseas, because LA we set up is around 1992, right? And Malaysia is 1998. In the sequence is the latest. So the one in Malaysia, what I said is important is because we want to set up the halal hub. Why we choose the Malaysia? Because it is the multi-international city. Also, it is the official halal recognition. Once you have the halal recognition on that countries, so you will be globally accepted. So this is one of the strategy we have. So in order to speed the sales or meet speed to the market, we choose Malaysian because this is the center of Asia. So it will serve the surrounding countries, almost 25 or 26. So in the South Asia. That's why we need the factory over there. And one more question is,
Cost difference.
what difference?
Cost difference between the different.
The cost difference, I think the Malaysia among our all the sites is the most cheaper one. Yeah, compared to the LA, Xinhui, and also the Hong Kong. So if you want to invest in the Malaysian, you can think about that this is the cost-effective country.
Thank you, Eric. More questions, please. If you don't want to fall asleep, you should ask questions. Please, take the opportunities. All the industry leaders are here. Don't miss it, you know. Anyone else? Christina?
Hi, I think I have a similar question. When we think about expanding production abroad, like obviously cost would be one of the things that we are most concerned about. Another thing we would think about is maybe like the business management culture difference between different countries. So I just want to know, like, how would you describe the cultural difference of the business environment between China and Malaysia? I guess this question is more directed to Eric as well, because different production bases.
Maybe let me help Eric out. Yeah, I can share something because at Raffles Family Office we have our headquarters in Hong Kong and Singapore, biggest team, but actually we have a team in China and also in Taiwan as well. But for China, it's a joint venture between Raffles Group and also iFast Financial. iFast Financial is a listed entity from Singapore. So Raffles China is 70% owned by Raffles Group, 30% owned by iFast Financial. And obviously, we are, as I mentioned before, we are looking at expanding into Jakarta, into Bangkok, and into KL as well. But you know, the way that we look at when we the biggest headache when we look at setting up rep office and legal structure, honestly, is very simple. And wherever you are, you just go to a chamber and they will get you help. And normally it's done within a few months, even a few weeks. But I think the biggest challenge is always the manpower, which means the local workforce, the labor force. And I think it would be unfair to say that Malaysian workforce are just cheap, because I wouldn't say it is in terms of cost, but I think it's the quality as well. It's the cost efficiency. Because if you look at, I mean, for me, besides Singapore, I'll do a direct comparison. Let's say Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. It's very, very different. But I think the one thing I do notice about Malaysian workforce is that, first of all, the education level on average are very, very high. And I think the quality of education, the tertiary education graduates, as compared to, I mean, there are, local workforce that are being educated overseas, then I don't compare those, because there's those similar. It doesn't matter you're Thai or Indonesian, when you're educated in one country, you have the same quality of degree. But I say if you graduate from Malaysia, from Thailand, from Indonesia, I would say that the efficiency level, the cost efficiency level, and quality of work that is being produced by that one person is Malaysia has got a very, very high advantage, I think. So in terms of that, it makes not just cost and the macro environment, but sometimes having the right labor force supply is very, very important, especially in my view as well, where we are not very labor intensive, but we really need high quality people. And I think in terms of exploring to set up in Malaysia, I think this has been one of the easiest tasks for me for Raffles Group, looking at Southeast Asia's next office.
But if you say that the cost effective, I think it's better to do it in the automation. If you do it in the fully automation, you don't need to worry about the manpower itself. No matter you are in China or in Malaysia or United States, once you have the fully automation, you don't need the exactly heavy manpower. You just need the engineer in the management. And that is, we need to change that. So once you have the good team to maintain like this, so I think the automation is, that's why we have the IE 4.0. 4.10, this is the same thing. You have the machine-to-machine communication. There's no need to have the man and machine operation.
Let me just interject that a little bit, Christina. I'll give you a slightly different perspective. In China management, most of them, unless they came back from overseas, the perspective that they have are just so that there's a limit to what they see and think. But if you look at the Malaysian management team, first of all, they are used to multicultural environment. They wouldn't realize it, but I grew up not knowing I spoke 4 languages, right, and different culture. So the advantage of adapting and understanding different culture is giving you a heads up if you start a business in Malaysia supporting the region. Very natural for Malaysia. Right? I think that's the fundamental that we found. The second thing is the tolerance level of Malaysian is surprisingly very, very high. Okay. The way we work and the way we tolerate funny things is very, very high. So, yeah. so I think to drive the operation to the next level, to the global international level, is a lot easier in an environment like that. Right? And we have about 10,000 people working in China. What we found was, although the labor cost in China for the preliminary level is lower, the labor cost for management level in China is actually a lot higher than Malaysia. Right? Although they are probably equally qualified and so on. So as you look at your entire business case and your business expansion, if you are, I would suggest you look at that. The final thing is really the roles within the management team. A lot of companies have the head of finance as Malaysians or Singaporeans or Taiwanese. A lot of them do that. A lot of them use the local population mainly for the sales work. Right? So as you look at the management team, you may want to decipher to say, hey, what kind of roles for them, what kind of nationalities is a bit biased, but a lot of companies do that as part of the strategy, right? There's a reason for that. Then obviously we can talk a lot more, right? But some different perspective for your considerations.
I just wanted to add very quickly because Ernst & Young is a professional services company, so we do accounting taxes. We have 250,000 people worldwide, and we all have by-country charge out rate. So if I was to answer the question about cost differential, so it's published like countries, so Hong Kong, what a partner would cost, what China, Malaysia is like way at the bottom of the list. I would say it's for the Asia Pacific charge out rate, a partner rate would be maybe 1/3 of a Hong Kong partner. Is a Hong Kong partner better than a Malaysian partner? No. But it is what it is. It's a global charge out rate, which is based on a complicated summary of office rent, utilities, salaries, etc. So just to share my 2 cents.
Any more questions? Otherwise, I'll call name. No more? Okay. So I'll pass this back. Thank you again for all the panelists. It was very informative and interesting. I hope everyone enjoyed it. So if let's say you guys have any questions later and you want to talk to the panelists, directly, please feel free to do that. Thank you.
Speakers, stay seated, please. Please, can you please stay seated as we would like to take a group photo. Thank you. May I welcome the Consul General of Malaysia, Mr. Yao Wei to please join the stage, as well as Ms. Azwani Ahmed, District Commissioner of the Consulate General of Malaysia, to join the speakers to take a group photo.